Danan commanded the attack. He told the villagers not to let them advance, and then gave the command to advance. The hail of Gizm arrows was heard again. Kosuke said that if this continues, there is no need for the elven spirit archers to come. Jakira smiled and said that was true. Then Melty turned to Kosuke and said that they were short of arrows. Kosuke thought that if all their guys were shooting at a rate of 1 shot every 10 seconds, then 5,000 arrows would last them about 7 to 8 minutes. He creates 5,000 arrows and tells Melty to take them and not to be shy. As they begin to sort the arrows, Jakira reaches out to Kosuke. Kosuke thought that the girl had only taken up a position next to him because she wanted direct access to the supply of arrows. At that moment, Kosuke takes out 100 arrows right in front of Jakira. The boy then asked how quickly Gizm meat spoils. Melty replied that if you leave it for half a day without doing anything to it, she thought it would start to spoil. The boy says he understands and then says he'll go there and collect it. Melty asks if he's really going to go straight there. Kosuke said that if he went there with a squad of those who could fight Gizmus in close combat, everything would be fine. Gizma meat tasted pretty good, so it would be a shame to let so much food go to waste. The boy came to the gate of the village, specifically the command post. Danan asked the boy what he was doing there. Kosuke asked if the Gizmas really did not attack continuously, but in waves, so he thought about going to collect Gizm carcasses near the walls. With his abilities, he could do it quickly, and the meat wouldn't spoil in his inventory. Danan said he understood the idea. Then they will form a squad of close combat fighters for this sortie. He turns to VOG and says that he leaves command of this place to him. Gelda approaches them and says that since it has come to close combat, she is with them. Kosuke says that if his memory serves him right, the girl's name is Miss Gelda. The girl says that the boy can simply call him Gelda. Kosuke looked at Gelda's sword and said that her sword doesn't look very reliable. The girl says that's true, she's incredibly strong, so swords break very quickly. Kosuke thought that Gelda herself was a large girl. In her hands, an ordinary one looked like a kitchen knife. The young man said that he would try to make a suitable weapon for her. He asked about any wishes she had. Gelda replies that when she served in the Royal Heavy Infantry, she had a full-length shield and a long mace. The youth says that this means that a full-length shield and a long mace are needed. He asks Gelda to tell Danan that he will go make weapons and return. After some time, the young man approaches the improved furnace. The young man searches the menu for a long mace. He sees that the list includes a mace, but not a long one. At such moments, if he concentrates as before and imagines an accurate image, suddenly a long mace appears on the menu. Kosuke says that it will be heavy. The materials are solid metal, so it's not surprising. Copper plate and iron for this. Now the life-size shield. The life-size shield requires copper plate, wood, raw leather, and glue. He thinks it's great. Then Kosuke says that it would be nice to make a weapon for yourself. In any era, in any country, every ordinary soldier had a spear or a club. The boy creates a long mace. At that moment, Sylphie, Danan, and Gelda approach him. Sylphie asks the boy if he really wants to go outside. He asks if the spiritual archers are really in place. Sylphie replied that their preparations took a long time. Kosuke said that it would be a waste of resources to let good meat spoil. Then he tells Gelda that her weapon is ready. He asks her to take it and try it out. The girl thanks the young man. She takes a shield and a long mace. The girl says that it is a good weight and now she can deal with even Gizmas. Kosuke at this moment said that the sound of the wind from her swings is very frightening. He takes out his mace and says that maybe he should try helping with his weapon. Sylphie asks if he really just made it. Kosuke says that he's not used to such heavy things. Sylphie asks if the boy can give her the mace. He says he doesn't mind. Sylphie waves the mace and says it's not bad at all. Kosuke realizes that Sylphie also has incredible physical strength. Danan says that since everyone is ready, they need to move out. After a while, the man said that he quickly introduced everyone. He points to the lizard man and says that this girl's name is Miss Samira. She is his mentor and master of the spear. She was his spear instructor as Marinard. Kosuke thought once again that he was completely unable to understand the expression of emotions on the reptile's face. Danan then introduces Lord Leonard. He is a dual-purpose swordsman. In the kingdom, his swords were known as Leonard's Twin Fangs. Kosuke was surprised that the aristocracy had arrived. Leonard said that Kosuke healed his arm so that it is now as good as new. Danan said that he has the same story, but only with his leg. Danan asks if he really used that strange medicine on him too. Then a huge girl approaches the boy. He thinks that she is a red demon. Danan says that this girl is called Sumeru. She is a former adventurer and the top of her class. She was given the nickname Meat Grinder. The girl tells Kosuke that she is pleased to meet him. Kosuke says that he is pleased to meet her too. Danan says that these three, him, Gelda, Ira, and Her Majesty, are their sortie party. Sylphie tells Danan that this is an excellent choice. Then Kosuke asked Ira how she was, and if she was okay. The girl said that she was okay. The girl says that the court magician is not just a title. Kosuke thought about Ira shooting lasers from his eye. No, he would probably fight with some spells. He would be interested to see. Then Kosuke looked at Sylphie and they both nodded to each other. Kosuke then asked if everyone was ready. Everyone raised their weapons at once and answered yes. Sylphie said that the purpose of the operation is to collect the gizm meat that Kosuke is collecting. Everyone else is to protect Kosuke. Then they head out. The heroes went to the front lines to get gizmo meat. The young man took one gizmo body after another into his inventory. He was accompanied by a detachment of their experienced fighters. Leonard sighed and said that Kosuke's abilities were, how to describe it, strange. He could heal and make things disappear. At this time, Kosuke placed another gizmo in his inventory. Sumeru added that it wasn't like she understood what was going on, but such abilities were very useful. As she understood, it was some kind of magic. Danan said that it wasn't magic, since Kosuke didn't have magical energy at all. Sumeru replied that she wasn't very good with magic, so she was really taken with the guy. At that moment, Kosuke asked them to stop talking about him. At that moment, Zamiru told them not to let their guard down. Gizmo is a master of surprise attacks. At that moment, the girl looked around. Gelda said she agreed with Zamiru, however, she finally had a good weapon, so she wanted to test it. The girl showed off her elongated mace, and Zamira said that it looks so amazing that she is even jealous. Zamira asked Danan if that man had really made his weapon too. Danan called the girl a mentor and agreed with her. Zamira looked at Kosuke. Although the reptile's expression may not be clear, its eyes show that it also wants a high-quality weapon. Leonard added that he needed better swords too. Sumeru replied that since we were talking about weapons, she was literally using a log. Kosuke noticed their weapons, all of which were dull and chipped on the blades. Kosuke thought that their piercing gazes were simply piercing his body. The young man looked at Sylphie, who was smiling sweetly next to him. He said that Sylphie had given her the go-ahead, so they had won this time. He would make them weapons. He asked them to think in advance what kind of weapon they wanted from the young man. Everyone agreed. Suddenly, Gizmo's squeak was heard. Leonard got angry and said that it seemed like they had guests. Kosuke asked if they were leaving or what. Leonard told them not to worry so much. He says that they won't be surrounded here, so there's no need to rush. Danan tells Lord Leonard that he's being overly optimistic. At that moment, Sumeru was swinging a log over her head. Sumeru asked if it wasn't so, that Lord Leonard was right. In a place like this, the Gizmos wouldn't be able to use anything against them except their antennae. Leonard replied that it was very rude of the girl to call him an old man. Sumeru replied that in the current situation, everyone is equal, so it doesn't matter whether you are an aristocrat or not. Sylphie then turned to Kosuke and told him to ignore Jism and continue collecting meat. The youth agreed. Gelda and Zamira also prepared for battle. Zamira said that she would come from the flank. Then Danan said that they were advancing. Kosuke thought that even though they were under such an attack from Gizm, they were all somehow too calm. At that moment, the group met Gizm face to face. Danan used his weapon and immediately cut the monster's head off. Kosuke was surprised. Gelda then covered herself with her shield, repelling the monster's attack. And then, removing her shield, she attacked the monster with her long mace, turning its head into mincemeat. Then one of the monsters stood right in front of Lord Leonard. Leonard suddenly found himself behind the monster, which was shattered into several pieces by his swords. At that moment, Zamira lunged and used a circular air attack. Suddenly, Sumeru's scream was heard. The girl told the Gizmo to receive and hit him with her log. Leonard told Sumer that if she turns them into mincemeat when she kills the Gizem, they can't be collected later. The girl said that she admits it, and it's her fault, because she simply miscalculated her strength. At that moment, a light appeared from the side. It was Era, who was casting a spell about an approaching thunderstorm. She used lightning and hit several gizmas with one spell. Kosuke was very surprised. He turned to Sylphie and told her that it was great magic. Sylphie said that Sylphie was like a child who had just seen magic for the first time. Sylphie then realized that this was the first time she had seen magic from Kosuke. Kosuke agreed and said that before this time he had only seen magic when the girl healed his wound, but nothing more. Sylphie said that Ayura's destruction magic was a court mage level magic. It wasn't something you could see every day. Ayura was happy to be praised by Her Majesty. Then Kosuke said he had a question. Everyone was talking about him as someone super interesting. But aren't these guys much more interesting than him? He can't cut a bug of this size in half, much less turn it into mincemeat with one blow, and he can't shoot lightning. Sylphie says that anyone who has undergone training can do so. At that moment, the girl attacked the monster that appeared right behind her. Kosuke asks if the girl is serious about this. Then, in her humble opinion, anyone in this world is much cooler than him. Sylphie says that she thinks that this is beyond the scope of common sense for the boy, because he is from another world. And anyway, since the boy has free time to think, he better get moving and start collecting meat. After some time, the squad returns to the village. Kosuke says that they managed to collect the corpses of 216 gizmas. Kosuke is happy that Melty will be very happy. If they count 2 gizmas a day, they will be able to provide the refugees with meat for 108 days. Sylphie adds that the gizmas' meat will change their diet for the better. Gelda added that it was true. If you add meat to the soup, the taste immediately becomes richer. Leonard replies that gizem meat makes a good broth. Thanks to Mr. Kosuke, he can hunt now too. He can repay them for the food he got for free before. Sumeru says that old man Leonard just wants to eat more delicious things. Leonard says that his blades have already reached their limit. They have been with him since the Holy Kingdom. They look like if magical energy were to pass through them now, they would simply crumble in his hands. Zamiru also said that, as they say, any sword is dull for a bad swordsman, but even here there is a limit. Her spear is already at its limit. They looked at the boy again. Sumeru said that anything would suit her, as long as it was big and heavy. Sylphie said that she wanted something longer. Kosuke said that she would go with it too. Suddenly, Era tugged at Kosuke's sleeve and said that she wanted a staff with this. The boy did not understand what Ayura meant. The girl gave him ore, and the boy understood that she wanted one with mithril. The young man said that he was not sure if he could make a staff with the equipment he had at the moment, and whether any special runes or rituals would be needed. Ayura agreed. She says she'll go and get the blueprints. Kosuke tells the girl not to rush, because he might not go into much detail at all. Then Kosuke asked everyone to tell him their wishes. A little bit of specifics and what kind of weapon they would like a one-handed sword or a two-handed sword, light and sharp or heavy and strong, with a straight blade or a curved one, and so on. Zamiru said that she would like a spear that she could easily pierce the enemy with, but a longer tip so that she could also cut them, and it would be wonderful if it were heavier. Sumeru said that anything would do, but she wasn't very good with blades, so she wanted a weapon that she could just hit with. Leonard said that he wanted a broad-bladed, single-edged sword. Then the boy said that he wanted Sylphie. The girl answered that anything would suit her, if Kosuke did it. The boy still asked her to describe roughly what would suit her. The girl said she wanted something with a blade. She asked what about a scimitar, since they had discussed it earlier. After a while, the young man stood in his workshop and thought about the scimitar. He himself recommended this weapon to Sylphie. It would look great in the hands of such a beautiful girl. By the way, he still uses mithril for Era's staff, so shouldn't he try making a scimitar out of mithril? Why not? It would be interesting to try to make a weapon from this material. The young man places all the mithril in the crafting window. He is very interested in what can be crafted from this strange material. The 9th day of survival arrived. Peruna flew to Sylphie and began to report. There were no signs of Gizem in the area. Sylphie thanked Peruna for the report. Danan said that as soon as the sun rose, the Gizmas stopped attacking. It seemed that they had survived the attack safely. At this point, Leonard, Zamiru, and Sumeru were all enjoying their new weapons. Leonard said the blades were a bit rough, but very practical. Zamiru was happy with her spear, and Sumaru was delighted with her new club. Leonard said it was a shame he hadn't had a chance to try out the new weapon on Gizmo. Sumaru said it was true. Kosuke said that he was very happy that they were all happy, and he had already finished collecting the Gizmo's corpses. He then turned to Sylphie and said that he had prepared something special for her as well. It took 2 hours to make the ingots, and another 4 hours to craft the weapon itself. Sylphie was very surprised. She pulled the blade out of its sheath, and your mouths dropped open in surprise. Sylphie guessed that it was a weapon made of mithril. The girl asked if the sword had a name. Kosuke answered negatively and said that he hadn't really thought about it. When making it, he imagined the month. If you give it a name, something like Moonlight or Blue Moon. Then he asks, what about calling it Blue Moon? Sylphie said that she liked it very much, and from now on this sword is called Blue Moon. Everyone applauded enthusiastically. Kosuke said that the reaction was quite nice. Eira replied that the mithril sword is a relic of the royal family, and here they receive one from a passing person from another world. It's quite funny. Kosuke was surprised and asked Eira where she came from. The girl held out the precious blueprints. Kosuke said that it was a blueprint and a staff and a piece of mithril ore. The boy was taking the materials, and at that moment Sylphie told Kosuke to bring Gizmo's corpse here and she would try out the new sword. Nosha took out the corpse and the girl swung her sword. There were cracks on the monster's shell, which later became larger, and eventually, the entire monster was cut into 4 huge pieces. Kosuke wondered if it was too sharp. Sylphie said it was a great blade. He would have to be careful with it, or she might cut off her arm or leg. Leonard approached Her Highness and said that if she wanted to train, he, Leonard, would always be at her service. Zamiru responded the same way. Sylphie said that she thought she would approach them for training sooner than they thought. Sylphie then said that she would leave things to them for now, and that she would take the chance to rest a bit. After some time, the young man puts the bolts to be crafted, and all that remains is to wait for the crafting to be completed. Then he realizes that he hasn't checked his achievements and skill level for a long time. The young man notices that his level has risen quite a bit. His profile statuses now have numerical values. Physical strength and endurance are now 120, and his skill points are now 12. He won't think long, he'll immediately choose a pack of skills. It looks like he'll get 1 skill point for each level. It's like this. It was necessary to take this skill earlier to increase the efficiency of collection by 40%. Then the young man thinks about achievements. The young man notices so many new skills. Then he realizes how the numerical stats in the profile have been unlocked. It's hard to estimate the quality improved by 5, but the crafting time shortened by 10% is even. Kosuke noticed an interesting achievement. It was necessary to achieve an attack against the opposite sex. He thinks that he knows quite a lot of girls besides Sylphie. Then the young man realizes that he did not do this to the elders. Then he decides that he won't think about it at all. He is with Sylphie, and for him she is the only girl in the world. Then he decides to look at the achievements again. The Survivor achievement, which is given for the hero remaining alive after the night of the red moon. There was also an unlock for increasing the level of skills. After some time, he told the girl about the attack every 7 days. Kosuke says that he knows that maybe he is thinking about it too much. However, given the absurdity of his abilities, he can't completely deny this development, which is why he wants to strengthen the wall's defenses. Sylphie says that she will tell Danon and the elders to pay attention to this. The citizens of the Marinard Kingdom and the elves can be relied upon to supply resources. The young man thanked the girl. Tomorrow he would need to collect clay as soon as possible. Sylphie replied that there was nothing to thank her for. It is not unusual that she tries to take measures so that the young man has fewer worries. Moreover, it is good for everyone anyway. The young man says that then, before going to bed, he will work on the staff for Eira. He was about to get up from the couch, but Sylphie grabbed the boy's hand and their lips touched. Suddenly, Sylphie asked how the boy dared to say another woman's name when they were alone. He apologizes, but Sylphie says that a servant who does not think of his mistress first should be punished. The youth asks if there is anything he needs to say here, agreeing. The girl takes the boy in her arms and says that now it's time to punish him properly. The girl throws him on the bed. The young man asked her to wait and asked if it shouldn't be the other way around. The girl changes places with the young man and he asks her to stop. After some time, it was the 11th day of survival. The young man was working, digging clay. Also, all the other residents were also actively engaged in their affairs. The young man even caught the scene of a quarrel between the elders. Two elven girls told the chief that 500 years ago, as now, she had a flat valley and not a hillock in sight. The girl answered that her valley would surprise them yet. Thus came the 13th day of survival. The young man had not yet prepared Era's staff, but instead he continued to mine a lot of ore. Then came the 13th day. On this day, the young man created even more weapons, such as swords, crossbows, and spears. The 14th day arrived. The young man built a lookout point above the entrance to the village, from where Danan looked out. Thus came the 15th day of survival. It was a dark night, and Sylphie, standing with Kosuke on the wall, asked him if the moon was red. The young man said that it seemed that the moon was not red. Not a single gizmo had been seen in a week of patrolling the approaches to the Black Forest. It seemed that their numbers had decreased even in the desert. Kosuke said that it was out of topic, but the moon was so beautiful today. Shouldn't attacks be a weekly event? Sylphie agreed and said that the moon was absolutely stunning today. She would like to see the light of the blue moon, but she also likes the soft, warm light of this golden moon. Then, Sylphie asked what to do now that there is no red moon. Kosuke also didn't know what to do now. Sylphie added that thanks to the boy's efforts, the wall around the village is in full combat readiness. Kosuke asks if the girl will really go and try to take back the kingdom of Marinard. Sylphie smiles and agrees, as she has been thinking about it for some time. Kosuke hits his chest and tells the girl that if that's the case, he will help her. Right now, he can't imagine them breaking up. Sylphie was very touched. She said that there was still one problem that could not be ignored. Even if all the villagers and Marinard citizens who were here agreed to help her, there would not be 300 who could fight. They won't stand a chance against the Holy Kingdom army that is currently in Marinard. Kosuke agrees and says that there are different ways to solve problems. If they're outnumbered, you can just build a fort. Plus, set traps. Plus, they have crossbows. He's collected some nitrates, so he can do something interesting. Sylphie smiles and replies that if you listen to the boy, everything doesn't seem so complicated. Kosuke smiles back and says that if the girl didn't know, then he is a real optimist. Then the girl looks into the distance and says that it is decided. She looks at the young man and says that the kingdom of Marinard will be hers again. Then they look at each other. After some time, Sylphie announced at the common table that she wanted to take back the kingdom of Marinard. Everyone was incredibly surprised, and Kosuke thought that this was about the reaction he expected. Kyubi said that it was great, and that it seemed like the princess was finally starting to look like herself again. Sumeru replied that she was sick of being pushed around by those pigs from the Holy Kingdom. Lord Leonard said he agreed too. They couldn't let them keep their homeland under their thumb any longer. Zamira replied that her spear would always be at the girl's service. Danan, surprised, said that he would wholeheartedly support the girl's plans. Milty said that, however, it would take time to prepare enough supplies to go to war. Many would have been willing to support Sylphie, but there were still some issues that needed to be resolved, which led to a long conversation. Era said that with Kosuke's strength, they should be able to handle it. Thus, one well-aimed statement from Ira, who saw through his and Sylphie's true motives, decided the further course of action. And now he, Kosuke, is surviving in another world. He arrived in the Great Omit Desert as part of a group that was to go ahead and do some early fortification work. Kosuke was asked to place a marker somewhere in the area. The young man created a brick pillar and placed a torch on top. The goal of the expedition was to build a base in a place where it would be possible to arrive from the village in good time before sunset. Kosuke was removing the lower blocks under the torch and said that this was the 8th landmark. Leonard replied that they would soon need to decide on a location for the fortress. Zamira replied that they were already quite far away. It would take at least 10 days to cross the desert. The young man looked into the distance and realized that the forest was no longer visible. Zamira replied that if they saved their strength, then it would be something like that. If there was a road, they would move faster. Kosuke added that they would have to build 8 more bases. Being in the front lines was very tiring. Suddenly, Leonard put his hand on Kosuke's shoulder and said that he would like a mithril sword too, and it would be nice if it had a name. Zamira told Leonard that it was not nice to just go and ask for a weapon from everyone behind their back. A mithril spear would also be very useful. She would be even more useful to their squad. Leonard asked if the young man would really make a mithril weapon during this expedition. They wanted the mithril name sword and mithril name spear. Kosuke thought that was why they went with them. At that moment, a shot rang out. Leonard and Zamira were very scared. At that moment, Jakira said that she had hit the target. Sylphie stood nearby and covered her ears. Jakira yelled at Kosuke that his lever-action rifle was something special. Kosuke told the girl not to shoot too much left and right. He could only make 3 of them, and the production of cartridges had not yet been established, so the girl had to be careful with it. Jakira replied that she understood everything. Leonard said that the weapon was too noisy and he didn't like it. Zamira said that she didn't like it either. However, Jakira was happy and said that there was nothing better than a rifle. However, its effectiveness cannot be argued with. Jakira managed to finish off that huge gizmo with just 2 shots using the rifle. She also added that she would leave the collection to Kosuke. The young man agreed. Leonard then turned to Sylphie and asked her where they would build the base. The girl told Leonard to let her think about it. At that moment, Kosuke asked Chikiru to shoot the gizmo somewhere closer next time. Sylphie asked Leonard, what about that hill with the cliff over there? Leonard replied that it would give them a good view, plus the terrain would be good for defense. Sylphie announced to Kosuke that they were setting up a base on that hill with a rock on top. After a while, they reached the hill and decided to prepare their overnight stay for today. First, Kosuke will level the terrain slightly. He uses the newly unlocked skill Bilateral Symmetrical Laying. He will make the floor and set the axis of symmetry where the axis of symmetry will pass. Then he puts the wall at once, not just one cube at a time. He also decides to make the wall and the roof at once. Sylphie told Kosuke that for some reason walls were appearing everywhere. The boy said that it was his new ability, an advanced construction skill. Finally, the base was ready. He hadn't finished the inside yet, but in principle it was livable. Now he needed to build a protective wall around it. He thinks he will make a square with sides of 100 meters. Then he needs to put 100 blocks on each side. He will first mark the borders with blocks to determine the shape. After that, he'll dig the transom, right around the perimeter, 5 meters deep. Jakira says that even if he's just digging, that speed is simply impossible. Leonard adds that he doubts even earthbenders could do it. Kosuke says that to prevent the possibility of undermining, he decides to fill the trench with stone blocks. The thickness of the protective wall will be 3 blocks, and the height 7 blocks. He would build fortifications at the corners and install the main gate. The base was finally built. Leonardo said that there was no thought that they would finish it today. There were just some finishing touches left. Sylphie then orders everyone to inspect the walls. If anything is wrong, they should tell her. At this time, Kosuke says that he decides to build a ladder here first. Suddenly, Kosuke feels a strange sense of danger. Suddenly, the young man starts running away. Leonardo says that they were noticed. Zamira replies that they hid their presence. Leonardo adds that he suddenly became very fast, and Zamira is surprised by his strange way of moving. Kosuke didn't know what to do. First, he decided to climb higher. Then the young man realized that he had backed himself into a corner. Leonardo told Kosuke to go down, because they had nothing to fear. Zamira confirmed Leonardo's words. Kosuke said that he was Sylphie's servant. Without her permission, he could not make weapons from such a valuable metal. If they really wanted to, they should go and ask Sylphie's permission. Kosuke didn't know what to do now. Then someone called him. It was Peruna who asked if Kosuke was in trouble. She was on his side, so he could grab her and she would carry him away. Kosuke said that was the best thing he could do. Peruna said that she doesn't know what to do because she doesn't have enough energy. She thinks that if Kosuke finally made the weapon he promised her, she would have more energy. Kosuke said that he was no ally. Peruna was just another predator, and that was it. Then, a familiar voice asked what was going on here. It was Sylphie. Kosuke rushed to Sylphie and said that it was all because of him, it turns out. Leonard turned to the princess and told him to let him make a mithril weapon for them too. Sylphie said that she had to admit that she was impressed by their dedication. But when it came to the mithril weapon, it was even capable of conquering an entire country, so she couldn't just say what needed to be done. Kosuke says that his understanding of values is being destroyed by this world. He understands that he is slowly becoming a crafter, which will destroy countries. Sylphie says that Kosuke does not belong to their world, so he is not bound by their value system. If they would take the trouble to become his friends and agree to pay the appropriate price, she was sure he would make them the weapons they wanted so much. However, she also thought that sooner or later, ill-wishers would begin to attack Kosuke, and at that moment when she could not be near the young man, she was sure that Dane, Leonard, and Zamira could protect them. Kosuke says that these protectors wanted to force him to make mithril weapons almost by force. Sylphie says that she still wishes he would listen to their wishes. In return, they would protect him no matter what. Kosuke thought that this meant that the great warriors of the Marinard Kingdom would become his personal bodyguards. In that case, he decides to make a mithril weapon. Leonardo says what one would expect from Kosuke. He understands perfectly well what is going on. He notices that Peruna is quite despondent. He says that he has finished developing a weapon that the Harpies could use. Peruna was very surprised and asked if this was really true. The boy creates a weapon, and no one understands if it is really just a club. Peruna said that she doubts that the club will help her in any way. Kosuke says that instead of trying to explain it verbally, it would be faster to demonstrate it. He asks them to climb the wall and wait. Kosuke threw the weapon from the wall and, upon contact with the ground, a huge explosion was heard. Everyone was shocked by the new weapon. Leonardo said that it was very similar to the explosion magic that only high-level ones can use. Zamira said that if this weapon was distributed to all the fighters, the army's combat power would be very strong. Peruna asked the young man to give her the weapon and test it. Kosuke said that the weapon was called a hand grenade. He offered to explain again how to use it. There was a safety catch at the end of the handle. If it was removed, a ball would fall out. You need to wrap this string around your finger and measure approximately this distance. Then you need to throw. Then the grenade exploded. Kosuke said that once the girl threw it, the explosion could not be prevented, so she had to be extremely careful. If she did not handle this weapon very well, there would be no trace of her left. The girl said it tickled her legs a little. The boy said it could be tiring, but she should never let go until she was sure she was ready to give it up. The girl flew off the wall and said she was there and back. The girl then pulls out the balloon and throws a hand grenade, which explodes upon landing. Then she turns around and says that now a sudden throw is waiting for her. She rushes straight down from a great height. Then she adds a sharp stop at the very end of the dive and throws a hand grenade. The girl hits a log and it explodes from the enormous explosive force. Leonardo said it was amazing. Such destructive power, it would completely change the situation on any battlefield. Peruna told Kosuke that she did it and that she was cool. Kosuke asked Sylphie what she thought. The girl thought about it. Then she apologized and said she was thinking for a moment. Chikira said she couldn't do it anymore because her stomach was already stuck together from hunger. Sylphie said that it was indeed so. The sun had already set, so they should wrap it up, because that was all for today. After a while, Chikira said that it was not enough for her, so she wanted more. The others also asked for more. Kosuke was surprised that he could craft using gizem meat. The boys asked Kosuke what the food was called. The young man replied that in the world he came from, this dish was called a burger. The boys thought it was pretty good. The young man was very happy that everyone liked it. Leonard asked if the meat was really roasted beef firm. Chikira thought about eating it with your hands. Peruna said there was no problem with eating it. Kosuke said his crafting ability didn't work that logically. And here they have those who prefer to eat in silence. Then Sylphie said that Kosuke would announce the plan for today. The young man said that he would like to ask Chikira and Peruna to do something. The girls asked what happened. The young man created a lot of bullets and told the girl that they could shoot anywhere and at anything, so the girl didn't even have to worry if the rifle became unusable. This is a test of the weapon's durability. With continuous shooting, the barrel heats up and because of this, its strength decreases. In addition, there may be malfunctions in some other internal mechanisms. Depending on the malfunction, there is a possibility that the rifle may even explode. He asks the girl if she will test it. The girl tells the boy to trust him. She takes the basket and the machine gun because she won't be there for long. Then the young man takes out a huge lead chest containing hand grenades. He asks Peruna if the girl could try to figure out how many shells she could safely fly with. In terms of heaviness, I would like to think that soon she will need to fly from their base to the enemy to bomb them again and again. The girl replied that she understood. Then the young man said that she also needed someone to help her carry the shells and put them on. By the way, these don't have gunpowder, so they are just dummy shells for testing. Samira said that she would help Peruna. Kosuke says he will go and continue to bombard the base, as they need to figure out how Peruna will carry them. Sylphie says she and Leonard will accompany Kosuke then. While Peruna trains, Kosuke is setting up the base. Leonardo said that the quality and speed of construction are incredible. Sylphie absolutely agrees. Kosuke's strength is amazing. Nothing else comes to mind. Then the young man finishes installing the door and everything is ready. Kosuke talks about 20 barracks. Then Kosuke says that as they asked, there are 4 double rooms on the floor and 1 living room on them. And since there are 2 floors, 16 people can live here. Since there are only 20 houses, the total capacity is 320 people. Also, before it slips out of his head, he takes out a shovel. Leonardo asks Mr. Kosuke what he's doing this time. The young man replies that he thought it would be a good idea to prepare toilets. Leonardo says that if he recalls, both he and the young man in the village liked to mess around near cesspools. He asks if the gentleman really has some special interest in the remains. Kosuke says that there is nothing of the sort. Is it even worth trying to explain that he was only trying to get materials for gunpowder? Kosuke says that cleanliness and hygiene are very important. When there is unsanitary conditions, the risk of diseases increases. Sylphie says that this matter speaks. Leonardo says that the epidemic is very scary. Then he says something about a cesspool. The boy creates a simple toilet, then duplicates it, and creates several more. Kosuke says it's a bit tight, but that can't be helped. Leonard says it's quite good. Kosuke thinks that they should set up several in different places. Sylphie agrees and says that near the barracks and near the ladders for climbing the walls. After a while, Sylphie asked Kosuke how he was doing and if he was suffocating. Kosuke said that everything was fine, because there was a fresh breeze. He felt even better than on the surface, and all thanks to the girl's spiritual magic. The boy then digs up the bottom block, then removes the 8 blocks surrounding it and fills that surrounding space with cobblestone, and then another block down. Then he is surprised. Sylphie asks if the water has come. Kosuke says that the water has come at the same depth as in other places. Then he is going to dig the last meter block and climb back out. After a while, the young man climbs out of the well. Leonardo tells him about the excellent work. Kosuke thanks him. 4 wells in the corners of the base are done. Sylphie says that they will check tomorrow whether the water is safe to drink. Kosuke asks if they can really tell whether the water is safe to drink with spiritual magic. It is strange that not a single plant grows in this desert. There is water, though, and it is not that deep. Sylphie tells a story that it is said that this is because the destructive power of the Spirit Stone was abused in these lands. As a result, the spiritual balance in these lands was disrupted, and now not a single plant can grow here normally. Kosuke remembers about the elders. The power of the spiritual stone is destructive to the human body, isn't it? He felt a bit scared. Leonardo then asks what they are going to do now. Kosuke says he is making beds. Leonardo realizes it is some kind of fertile soil. Kosuke says it is because he used a block of dirt from the Black Forest. The soil from the Black Forest plus his abilities. It is no wonder that the soil looks very fertile. He thinks that in 3 days after sowing, it will be possible to harvest. Then it's the turn of the hoe. Because the land needs to be plowed, he loosens it and gets beds. Leonardo says that now he understands why His Highness and Aira sometimes can't come to terms with what's happening. Kosuke was having a lot of fun plowing at that moment. Then he creates rice seeds as the sowing was ready. Leonardo says that he also has a headache. Kosuke at this point was having a lot of fun sowing the seeds. Leonardo then tells Sylphie that there are already sprouts there. Sylphie says that it is because Kosuke is in charge there. The young man thinks that the field needs water. Maybe he should make some kind of spring out of blocks. He'd better make it 4 by 4 and dig 2 blocks deep. Then he will line the inside with stone blocks, and then he will pour a bucket of water into each diagonally opposite corner. The boy finishes. Sylphie asks why the boy only poured 2 buckets of water into that hole, and it's already full. Kosuke laughed and wondered why indeed. Then he decides to collect water to irrigate the field. He thinks it will be enough for the first time. Sylphie asks if no matter how much water he collects from there, the level does not go down, or if she has problems with her eyes. Leonardo says that maybe she's imagining things or that it's an optical illusion. Sylphie cuts it off and says that no matter how you look at it, it's not an illusion. Kosuke says it's a well and just a weird well. They are interrupted by Jakira, who says she's used up all her bullets. Kosuke can't say that he just accidentally created an inexhaustible source of water. At that moment, Jakira asks what happened, and Leonardo and Sylphie replied that nothing happened. Jakira says she used all 500 rounds but had no problems. Kosuke says that's great. Jakira says that even the aiming accuracy seems to be intact. Kosuke asks if there really is no problem after 500 shots. In any case, it would be better for the girl to use a new rifle. So far, there don't seem to be any problems with using it on the battlefield, so he's more or less calm about it. Due to its abilities, he finds it difficult to say whether the weapon's effectiveness was so good from the start, or whether it was a result of him crafting it. He thinks that as a test sample, it's still not enough. Suddenly, Peruna flies in and asks where the vegetable garden came from. Besides, there is already something growing there. She asks why and what happened. Jakira said that where did the plants come from all of a sudden? Kosuke asked Peruna if she had decided on the optimal weight she could carry at a time. They tried different options, and it turned out that this was the one he could carry the most with him. He says it's quite heavy, and then asks if Peruna is sure she can handle it. He thinks it's at least 3 kilograms. The girl replies that everything is fine. If the road in one direction is 10 kilometers, she will be able to fly with such a load as much as she wants. Kosuke says that carrying the projectiles in this form is quite convenient, and it will be easy to drop them on enemies. The normal weight of a hand grenade is about 4 times less than that of the dummy ones. In this case, he will be able to fill the heads with a lot of gunpowder. This will no longer be a hand grenade, but a real bomb. He thinks it will be 6 times bigger. Kosuke says he will make several trial versions to make sure. He then turns to Sylphie and asks what's next on their agenda. The girl suggests having lunch, and then they'll decide. After a while, they split into pairs. Lord Leonard with Miss Amiru, Jagira with Peruna. They are on reconnaissance in the vicinity of their fortifications. Kosuke will be in charge of weapon development, and Sylphie will be guarding Kosuke. Kosuke then tells Miss Amiru that they could please specify the desired appearance of her mithril spear. After some time, the young man gets to work. He creates his own workplace. He decides to start with bombs for harpies. The young man opens the menu to focus on the image. Once he gets the crafter skill, he can craft even things he has a vague idea about. A very convenient thing. It takes 3 times more resources than to make a hand grenade. He'll make about 10 of them to start with. Now he'll make a rifle scope. A 4-fold increase is enough. Kosuke notices Sylphie's upset expression and asks what's wrong. Sylphie asks Kosuke if he's okay. Kosuke asks what that means. The girl asks if the young man really lived in a peaceful country before. These rifles and hand grenades, these are weapons of incredible power. She worries about how he feels about making things like this just because of her. It must be really hard for him. Kosuke says that, to be honest, he hasn't really thought about the consequences of his crafting, and he's making weapons of mass destruction. Yes, he bears a huge responsibility for creating such things. Because of his weapon, the people of the Sacred Kingdom will die one after another. Surely, he will be blamed for all these deaths. In the coming war, soldiers will kill enemies, but all these dozens, hundreds of deaths of enemy soldiers will lie on him. As the creator of the weapon that killed them all, he says that he will burn in hell. Sylphie asks about this expression. Kosuke says that it is a concept from his past world. Hell is a place where people go after death. There is God Enma, who instills fear and trembling in all living things. There he judges the souls of the dead for their sins, and decides what punishment they will bear for them. Of course, the existence of hell has not been proven by anyone. Sylphie says that it is the afterlife. In this world, they say that the souls of the dead become stars in the sky. Kosuke says that it is quite romantic. However, since the boy says he will go to hell, he will go there with her since she is the one who makes the boy make all these horrible things. He does not understand whether he should be happy about this. He will not be able to watch Sylphie burn in hell. No matter how heavy the sin, if its weight is divided between two, then the punishment will be half as much. He will not allow her to suffer alone. Kosuke says that he has a very kind mistress. In that case, he will try to alleviate his sins with as many good deeds as possible, so that the god Enma will not be so angry with him. Sylphie says that her weapon will not only bring death, but will also save many other lives. Sylphie is absolutely right. Their goal is not the genocide of the people of the Holy Kingdom, but the recapture of the Kingdom of Marinard. Killing people is a means to an end, not the end itself. Kosuke says that, in any case, it's much easier to kill them all than to try to keep them alive. Sylphie says that, of course, you can't argue with that. Kosuke says that, no matter what, they will have to demonstrate Marinard's military might a couple of times, so that the Sacred Kingdom will realize that going against them will be more expensive for them. And only after that will it be possible to somehow steer in the direction of preserving as many lives as possible. Sylphie replied that Kosuke was right. Kosuke thinks that they will mostly sit under siege and periodically make attacks near the camp. Since their numbers are small, starting a battle in the open field would not be the most far-sighted decision. Harpies will quietly bomb enemy fortifications from the air, and if enemy troops begin to approach their fortress, they will push them back with the help of improved crossbows and hand grenades. And he also made this. It's an anti-personnel mine, which is a trap. If someone touches the stretched fishing line with their foot, the mine will explode, and small metal fragments will fly around. Sylphie asks if it's not dangerous. Kosuke says that whether it's an enemy or an ally, they're mines. After the battle, they must be defused and removed. Otherwise, tragedies will be unavoidable. Sylphie says that, if possible, they would like to avoid using that weapon. Kosuke says that he absolutely agrees, and then says that there is one more thing. Sylphie asks what it is. Kosuke replies that it's a block of explosives. If you set it on fire, it'll probably go boom. He hasn't tried to blow it up yet, but he'd like to set it all on fire from as far away as possible. Sylphie says it's best to consult with Era first about artifacts that have fire magic. Then Kosuke says that, by the way, if they have a way to blow up this block from a distance, he has an idea. They can let the enemy army capture them and blow them up all at once. From a man's point of view, art is an explosion. Sylphie didn't expect the boy to be so heartless. Kosuke says that's all he can offer for now. Sylphie then asks if the boy will improve the rifle. Kosuke replies that, to tell the truth, he has made some other firearms. He asked the girl to let him present this weapon. Sylphie asked if there really were varieties. Kosuke agreed and said that there were a revolver, an automatic pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun. Sylphie asks if she can see them. The boy agrees, and says that they are not charged right now anyway. Sylphie picks up the revolver and says that it is heavier than it looks. Kosuke replies that it is because it is made entirely of metal. The young man says that the girl has a revolver in her hands, and it is intended for shooting at short range. He shows the girl what position to take. It can fire 6 shots in a row. The cartridges are lead balls about the size of a fingertip. The firepower is enough to kill a person with 1 shot. Kosuke says that it is a pistol. They can fire up to 8 shots without reloading. Sylphie asks if the pistol in Kosuke's hands is also for short-range shooting. Kosuke agrees. In the world, young men have not fought with swords and spears for a long time. Mostly fights are fought with machine guns and other firearms. In short-range fights, pistols or submachine guns are also often used. Sylphie says that this weapon can only fire 6 shots at a time. Reloading it in the middle of a close-range fight is not the most convenient option. However, in her world, as a rule, it does not come to close combat. If someone tries to engage in close combat, they will simply be shot into a sieve before they can do anything. The girl then picks up another weapon and asks what this huge tool is. Kosuke says it's a shotgun. Then he says that this is a vertical double-barreled shotgun. Sylphie says that they are both guns, so what is the difference? Kosuke replies that the shotgun can fire different types of ammunition. You can fire several bullets at once, similar to those fired from a pistol, or a handful of smaller bullets. Although he said that in his world it rarely comes to close combat, this weapon is just right for him. It is used during military operations indoors and when hunting. Sylphie asked if that was all. Kosuke said he had prepared something else. He suggested the girl to climb the wall. They climb up the wall, and the boy sets up an elaborate contraption. Sophie said it was a large crossbow. Kosuke said it was called a ballista. It shot arrows about the size of a spear. The first thing he does is turn this lever and pull the bowstring. Then he takes out a ballista arrow from his inventory. Sophie said it really is almost like a spear. Then he sets the arrow. To shoot, you pull this lever. Sophie replies that she kills. The boy then presses the lever and fires. A huge arrow pierces the stone. Sophie said that it was piercing power. Kosuke replied that it was possible to attack the enemy from even greater distances than with crossbows. He thinks that with the help of the ballista, even the ram can be destroyed. Then he takes out another thing. Sophie asked what it was and if it was some kind of gun. The boy replied that it was almost like a cannon. This particular type is called a swivel gun. This gun can fire long distances, and the projectiles are much larger than those used in rifles, easily outperforming the ballista in destructive power. As Sophie can see, it takes a lot of iron to produce, but this little thing has incredible power. Sophie replied that is, mass production of this weapon is impossible. Kosuke replied that only after they get the mines by reclaiming the kingdom of Marinard. Even so, he doesn't think there will be many situations where they would need such a firearm, since there is magic in this world. He has some ideas about why there are absolutely no technologically advanced weapons here, and decides to try it out. He reloads. The preparations are complete, so he fires. He advises Sylphie to cover her ears. Suddenly there is a loud explosion. Sylphie was surprised by what she saw. Just now, a bunch of small bullets flew out. And did she really see that? Kosuke said it was buckshot, a projectile similar to one of the shotgun shells he had shown her before. Sylphie asked when the boy had managed to create all of this. Kosuke replied that he had been slowly crafting while the village wall was being rebuilt. The only thing he demonstrated that could be mass-produced was the ballista. He thinks the guys will learn how to use it without any problems. Sylphie asks what about the revolvers? They are quite nice weapons. Kosuke asks if he really likes them. If the girl wants one, he will make one especially for him. The girl asks if he really does. Kosuke agrees that it will definitely happen. He can't wait to see the dark elf cowboy. Suddenly, a scream was heard about what that terrible noise was. At the bottom of the wall were Leonard and Zamiru. Leonard said that as soon as they heard the noise, they immediately ran to the wall. Then there was another scream about what had happened here. Chikira and Peruna appeared. Kosuke apologized and said that it was the sound of a test shot from a new weapon. Sylphie replied that she wanted the boy to demonstrate the weapon to them too. Chikira said that they were all just shocked. If each of them had such a weapon, wouldn't they be invincible? Peruna also thinks that the boy's weapon is incredible. Leonardo said that this weapon does not feel the pride of a warrior. Zamira replied that in front of this weapon, the warrior's body, hardened in countless battles, and any military skill are worth nothing. They are effective against humans, however. Her skills are on par with anyone armed with a pistol. Leonardo told Kosuke that he could shoot him with a few bullets to make sure he could parry them all. Kosuke asked if the man was sure he would be okay. Leonardo replied that the boy should not worry. Kosuke thought that if he accidentally shot Leonardo, his bandage skill would probably be able to heal him. Then, loading the gun, the young man shoots straight at Leonardo, but the man starts moving his hand, which holds the sword, at lightning speed. Kosuke can't believe his eyes. Leonardo was like something out of an anime. Leonardo says he can predict where a bullet will go based on where the gun barrel is pointing and where the shooter is looking. Zamira adds that compared to the sudden stabbing attacks of martial artists, bullets aren't that scary. Chikira says she would be able to dodge something like that too. Sylphie replied that she wouldn't lose to someone with a gun either. But the speed of a shotgun is too fast to handle in close combat. Kosuke is very surprised that even Sylphie is in the same boat. He thinks that he is trying to make the wrong weapon. Chikira replies that she does not think that the boy is doing anything wrong. Leonardo replies that the boy's weapon is truly remarkable. However, he is a little worried that whether it is in their hands or in the hands of a human, it makes no difference. Sylphie is worried about what will happen if the Sacred Kingdom somehow gets their hands on Kosuke's firearm. If they had it, she was afraid to even imagine what kind of lawlessness they might learn. Kosuke said that such a prospect was frightening, and then thought that it was worth remembering that this was a world of magic and alchemy. That is why he can analyze unknown mechanisms and substances with the appropriate spells, and then recreate them with alchemy. Leonardo realized that Kosuke had withdrawn into himself. Chikira replied that it seemed like it would be a long time, so Peruna told everyone that he had to stay. Kosuke thinks that in order to win and take back something, one needs strength, so he began to think about a weapon that could effectively kill enemies. However, there is a possibility that the enemy may take their weapon as a trophy. He was just talking to Sylphie about how their goal is to save lives, not the other way around, because the original thought that prompted him to create the weapon was the thought of taking back the kingdom of Marinard. He is thinking about how to take back the land without using military force. Suddenly, Kosuke's comrades call him. Chikira called Kosuke and said that it was almost time to harvest. It seemed that the great Omit Desert was now habitable. There was water here, and the grains of this wheat were so large. 5 days later, Kosuke's group returns to the Elven village. Sylphie tells Melty to gather the people, as they have a lot to tell. Sylphie says that the first camp has been successfully set up. Inside the protective wall are living quarters that can accommodate over 300 soldiers. Several wells with potable water have already been dug there. Most likely, both Sylphie's relatives and the refugee families are currently enslaved by the Sacred Kingdom, so there is nothing surprising in her words and feelings. Sylphie then says that she wants everyone to listen to her. Because there are so few of them, they are incredibly weak, and their goal is not to drown the people of the Sacred Kingdom in blood. They will go to the Great Desert of Omit, establish strongholds there, develop lands, strengthen their position, and build up their forces. Their plan is to eventually penetrate the Kingdom of Marinard, recruit people there, take them with them to the Omit Desert, and increase the number of people on their side. This plan was not yet thought up by Ni. In the Desert of Omith, they will create a place where all beastmen, elves, and the like can live. They will become stronger, there will be more of them, and then they will be able to take back the lands of the Kingdom of Marinard. Most likely, the people of the Holy Kingdom will not just sit back and do nothing. If he decides to attack them, they will be able to counterattack them with the weapons he recently made. Sylphie says that they would like to send about 50 people to the first base to test the agricultural areas that Kosuke has created. At the same time, they plan to begin building the second base. Danan asked the girl how many outposts she planned to make in the end. The girl replied that she planned to make at least 3. One to communicate with the elves, one to be their main base of operations, and one to defend the front lines. Of course, between them, it will also be necessary to put many small shelters along the way. Regarding the proposed location of the stronghold for protection on the front line, it will be located 5 days' walk from the lands of the Kingdom of Marinard, which is approximately in the middle of the Great Desert of Omit. This entire distance, 5 days' walk away, is the Omit Desert. According